this recording on our family resources page. So once more, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our parent alumni panel for Verto Education, our fall 26 semester abroad. We are so excited that you're here today to learn more from our community experts. These are people who have been where you are now and are on the other side of it and have lots of experience, advice, stories to share with you as you're gearing up to accompany your student in their transition from high school to college, from life in the US to life abroad, to adolescence to adulthood. Lots of transformation, as our mission would imply. This is a transformative experience. And luckily, we have many community members, including our 5 parent alumni who are joined in this call tonight to share some resources, tips, and advice as you're gearing up for this transformation as well. My name is Mateo. I'm the community manager here at Verto Education. I've been in this community for 5 years, and I'm very proud of being a member of this community, and you should be proud as well. We've seen thousands of students and parents come through our doors, study in our study centers around the world, and are now thriving across the US and the world as global citizens, as a connected community, bonded by incredible experiences, once in a lifetime transition from high school to college. And so let me say once more, if you haven't heard it, I'm sure you've heard it already, but welcome to our community. We're very excited to have you here. So a little bit more about our speakers tonight. We have 3 panelists who are joining as Verto Parent alumni. Their students participated in 1 to 2 experiences abroad with Verto before transitioning to some of our channel schools, as well as other schools outside of our network. And I also want to give a special shout out to 2 parent alumni who loved Verto so much that they decided to join our team as Verto staff members. So these are senior admissions counselors that you can talk to if you and your student are still weighing options ahead of National College Decision Day. So Shawneen and Kat, do you want to just give a brief intro to yourselves and your students' experience?
Thank you, Mateo.
Let's go Shawneen first. Yeah,
thank you. Yes, I'm Shawneen Edwards. I'm living in Spokane, Washington. Our son, Robbie, our baby, participated in Verto in Spain a couple of years back and had an amazing experience. I think one of the things that surprised me the most was the amount of personal young adult growth and skills that he gained that served him so well going on into his next college. That independence, that self-confidence, all of that. So we love Verto. I've been with Verto almost 7 years now, and loved it enough that we sent our own. So you're in the right place.
Thank you, Shawneen. Now let's hear from you, Kat.
Hey, everybody. I'm Kat Alexander. I'm actually based in New Jersey. My son Lucas did Verto in the fall of 2024 as his pathway to Boulder. And my biggest takeaway from him echoing everything that Shawneen said was that he wanted to stay a second semester and did not want to come home. And he was the baby, or still is the baby. But the growth, the confidence, just able to navigate life now on a different level. And then that's why I'm here, because I'm here to spread the word of Verto. Loved it so much.
Thank you, Kat. We really appreciate you. All right, so what we're going to cover tonight, we'll start with meeting our panelists who are joined here to share more information about their students' experience. Then we'll kick it off with some questions that I've prepared for panelists that often come in at this point of the experience. Parents have asked us in the past. We'll also then transition into questions from you all. So as you have questions for our panelists, go ahead and drop those in the chat, and I'll take stock of those and incorporate them into our presentation. We'll end with some announcements and location breakouts. So your students are working on their pre-departure checklist items, and May is when things start ramping up. We'll give you some reminders of how you can accompany your student in getting their checklist items in, and we'll open up breakout rooms based on location. So if you'd like to network with other family members, you're welcome to stay on. These rooms aren't hosted. They're sort of free form, so you're welcome to stay on. I'll also say, if you have questions about Verto itself, so not for our panelists, but a question for our admissions team or how things work at Verto, go ahead and use the Q&A feature. So questions for our panelists, put it in the chat. Questions for our team that Shawneen, me, and Kat will answer in the background, go ahead and put those in the Q&A, because I know people might be joining with some questions that, while they're not relevant to our panelists tonight, you still have some questions, and we want to make sure we get those answered to prepare you and your student. All right, so we're going to get kicked off. Oh, one more thing. Some things that aren't going to come up in our presentation tonight. We won't be covering financial services. We also won't be getting into specific details about every site's sort of particularities when it comes to being abroad. And we won't get into any visa specific questions. So if you have questions about those specific topics, you can reach out to financial services. You can review our location resources with your student, or you can refer to the instructions that the student onboarding advisor has given about visas, which of course are for our Florence, Seville, and Prague locations. I'll drop these in the chat in just a minute. All right, without any further ado, Michael, if we could have the honor of you introducing you and your family's experience first, because I think you're our Verto elder, so to speak. You're the furthest back. And yeah, so the questions are, if you could share a little bit more about your sons, and the warm-up question I had was something that surprised you about the Verto experience.
Sure. Well, and just to excuse, I'm getting caught up. I'm getting a bit of an echo here. So if my cadence is a little unusual, it's just what I'm hearing. So our family, both of our sons attended Verto. Our oldest son, Noah, found Verto his year in high school. And so that's where I'm going to start my college career. And he spent a year, started in Sevilla first semester and then London. He continued on to NYU, graduated a half a year early, which is in part thanks to Verto, because his credits transferred 3 for 4 credit hours from Verto to NYU, and he's now living in Brooklyn and working in Manhattan. What surprised me the most with Noah, and I was expecting it with our second son.
Hey, Michael, I'm really sorry to interrupt, but it seems like the echo is making it hard for us to hear. Do you want to maybe join from a phone, and I will pop you in as a panelist? That would be great, and we can come back to your story, because I think it's helpful. Thank you. Sorry about that. Let's move on. And Chad, I'll let you introduce yourself, please.
Sure. So good evening, everyone. My name is Chad Fulgham. I live in Palm Coast, Florida, but actually we were in the city of Falls Church, Virginia when Alex went to London with Verto. He absolutely loved his time. I actually wish he would have stayed a second semester, but he was really excited to get to his dream school, and Verto helped him get there. I saw him grow as a person. It was truly amazing. But I think the thing that really struck me the most is, Alex was a good student in high school. He was not a great student in high school. And I think it was a combination of being able to select his own courses in London. And he absolutely loved his professors and his classes. He actually looked forward to getting up and going to school. And so that was something that really shocked me, made me feel good. But again, happy to be here and be part of this panel. And I'll turn it back over to you, Mateo.
Thank you, Chad. All right. Up next, Pamela, I'll let you share your story, please.
Hi there. I'm Pamela Young. My daughter Jacqueline went to Florence last year, and she's now at the University of Tennessee. One thing that surprised me was the amount, she's an only child. I thought she was pretty independent. But her maturity level. We left her as a high school student. Coming back just a semester later, there was a young woman in front of us. And so for me, I would say the maturity and the growth that happened in just such a short time was really very surprising for my husband and I both.
Yeah, that's so great to hear. And Pamela, if we could, I want to start with you, because you sent in a lovely slideshow of photos. So I'll look to you to tell me when to go to the next slide. Maybe start with pre-travel. What were you feeling? What was your daughter feeling? What was that experience like?
Yeah, so we traveled before the trip. I've seen on the chat, and one of the questions I had very early on was, when can I visit? When I found out there was a parent orientation, I think I was like the number 1 or 2 person to sign up for it. I wanted to see where I was leaving her and what she was moving into to settle my own nerves. In hindsight, it was lovely and I had nothing to worry about. But we traveled before. We did a Mediterranean cruise. We spent some time in Greece prior to the trip, and then also in Italy prior to the trip. That was her request, a graduation gift, that she wanted to go to Europe before she started school, before she even knew she was going to go to Verto. And so we did this lovely mother-daughter trip and did a nice trip, cruise, land and sea, and then went to Greece. And then there's a picture of us at the Parthenon up there. Of course, you can't go to Italy without having limoncello or the lemon sorbet. So we had a really lovely time together. I think it gave us time to kind of help ease into the transition. But certainly she was ready. She was very excited about very excited about the opportunity to go to school. And how cool is it that she got to go to Florence, Italy? That's what she kept telling everybody. Matter of fact, when she got to Tennessee, somebody was talking about mountains, and she goes, "I'm not trying to be snooty, but they are not the Alps." So we kind of giggled about that a little bit, inside family joke. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, Mateo. Everybody always wants to see or know, and at least I did as a parent, what their accommodations look like. Jacqueline was in an apartment with 5 other girls. There were 6 girls in the apartment. There were 2 single rooms and then 2 double rooms. And that is her single room. I'm not sure why the blind was not opened, but she had that shut. It was pretty hot. They were up on like the 4th floor. So they had weather, no air conditioning, which was an adjustment for her. But that's what her room looked like. The apartment was very clean, very neat. That's her on the right in Florence in front of the famous Duomo church. And then on the left, that was actually an excursion that they had through Verto. They went whitewater rafting, or really rafting through the river that runs through Florence, as one of their excursions that they had. And this is one of the young women that she met who actually goes to the University of Tampa now, and Jacqueline saw her while she was home on spring break. So that was kind of fun for them to reconnect. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Transition from Italy to the University of Tennessee, a small group of people to a large group of people. It was a big transition for her. In hindsight, I think that was tougher for me and for her than going away across the ocean. Because in Verto, she had such a tight community. She bonded with her roommates. Matter of fact, I was telling the group earlier, she brought 2 of them back with her on spring break. The girls are going to be rooming together in an apartment next year, 3 of them out of the 6 of them. So they've really kept this beautiful bond and have a lot that they found in common, even though they are from vastly different backgrounds, different states, had different upbringings, different religions. There's a lot of differences, but they found a really nice common bond in their friendship and their time, at Verto. And so I would say her transition, for me personally and for her, to a large US university was harder than it was for her to go to Verto and have this kind of almost connection or instant bond. So that's her. And then Faith is down at the right-hand side. That is one of her roommates from Italy. They went to orientation together, met up with 2 other young ladies who were at Verto with them in Florence. And then they all went to orientation and back to the dorms together. They unfortunately could not be roommates because of the housing and the way they assign housing, but they will be next year. So that's exciting for them. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. All right, that one's not mine.
Yeah, and thank you, Pamela, and I really appreciate you. I think it's a good transition of thinking about friendships that you can make during a Verto experience, because I feel like a lot of parents and students at this point, they worry that they're going to miss out, right? FOMO, fear of missing out. By doing Verto, the opportunity cost is I won't be able to make friends. I'm going to have a bad experience. I'm going to arrive to my channel school or post Verto plan behind, or late to the game. And this is normal with every transition. It's natural for students to feel like, am I going to fit in? Am I going to find my tribe? What we end up finding, though, is that students inevitably find their folks. So I'd love for you, Chad, to share a little bit more about Alex's experience of starting fresh in a new country and making friends. What was that experience like for him?
Yeah, so I took Alex over to London, and when we got to the dorm, I just stood up against the wall. I was the pack mule. I had all the suitcases, and he went and checked himself in, and you could just see all of these young men and women, just excitement and a big degree of nervousness as well. People are nervous. There's a lot of new faces here, and what am I going to do? But I don't think it really matters in that kind of environment, whether you're an extrovert or an introvert. Everybody seems to want to be more mature when they leave high school and they go to college, and that's what Verta is. It's the first step in that journey. And I know that everyone there wanted to make new friends. I think the biggest thing that you can probably do to help your student is just tell them to get out of their dorm room. They have all these different activities when they first get to their city. They do trips, they do events. I mean, it is just they're getting to know so many different people, and you almost would have to try to not make friends there. And that's the feedback I got from Alex. They would just glom together and they would go out into town. And this was again before classes. So when you're in those classes and you're in those study groups and you're doing things, as students, it's going to get even better. But that first week or so when they're kind of just learning their city and meeting their fellow students. I mean, it was pretty nice. I enjoyed the feedback, and I don't think that anyone, as long as they just get out of their dorm room, they're going to make friends.
Yeah, thank you, Chad. And you mentioned something that we try to instill with students and parents too, a common language of helping your student transition into adulthood and thriving in what we call the discovery zone, which is really the ideal end goal for students. And it's the space in which they could realize their aspirations. They know who they are. They know what they care about. They're grateful for the experiences that they had. Of course, if you think about where students start in the comfort zone, your dorm room might be that comfort zone. And one way you can help your student when they're on site is encouraging them to get past their stretch zone where they may feel like, do I have all the tools I need? Am I cool enough? Am I going to find people? The answer is yes to all those questions. And they transition into their learning zone where they're gaining new skills. They're facing challenges head on. They're using resources on site that we provide them. And then that's how they get to the discovery zone. So in that thread, and thinking about the responsibility that students, the newfound responsibility that students take on as college students, I'd love to hear from a few panelists of how you helped your child navigate challenges with this added obstacle of maybe being overseas in a different time zone. Now your student is a big bad adult in the world. So how did you, I guess, change your strategy to effectively support your student when they were abroad? And maybe Michael, if we could try and see if we can get you here, because I think these are your son's photos.
Yeah, it's great can you hear me okay? Is this better?
Yeah, thank you. Perfect.
Awesome. Great. Well, that's Noah on the right in the sweater. I don't even, oh, that's in London. And in the left, that's Zachary with the facial growth in geez, I don't even know where they are there. I don't know if you know Mateo. But the challenges were probably more parental challenges than the challenges with the kids, and it was really more trying to um, try to stay out of their way and let them kind of make mistakes and learn through experiences and try to kind of be more hands off, which is really contrary when you're sending your kids abroad with a group. Maybe they're away for the first time, but just letting them be and encouraging them to let us know what's going on and not really reaching out too much, waiting for them to reach out and being them for them to support them, um, without being too much of a hovering dad.
Yeah, thank you for that difficult balance of trying not to hover, but also being there to support your student. Chad, I think you had a really good strategy of sort of periodic checkpoints with your son. Do you want to share a little bit more about what strategy you used there?
Yeah, I think when they go over to these cities, they're gonna meet friends and they're gonna want to spend time with them. They also have to study, but obviously us as parents, we want to get the feedback. And so what we did is we set up a Sunday evening FaceTime. And it was a standard, FaceTime that we were confident we were going to be able to see our baby and he was going to be able to talk to us. But we did give him the ability to say, now look, if you are out with some friends or if you're studying on something, it's okay. Just send us a text and say, can we do it tomorrow night? But that FaceTime, what I did is I used that, I don't know the proper term, and I won't use the one I use in the military, but it's something positive, negative, positive. And so what I did is I tried to provide the updates from our point of view, because when he first got on, you don't want to be like interrogating, your child. So I said, this is what's going on at home. This is what's going on with your brother. This is what's going on in the town, and blah, 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 blah. And then we started asking him about his updates. And we started with the fun stuff. Tell me about what you did in the city. Tell me about some new food that you tried. Tell me about the sporting event you went to, or the concert, or whatever. Then you get into the, are you washing your clothes? Are you getting food? Are you going to class? All those kind of things. How are the classes going? And then always obviously ending with, hey, what are you going to go do next week that's fun? Where are you going with your buddy? Have you started planning that trip to Munich I told you to take? He went to Munich with three of his buddies for a long weekend. Unbelievable. But I think that that's really what worked for us. Set up a weekly, doesn't have to be a long time. Give them the flexibility to punt if they have to. Be the first one to kind of break the ice, start positive, then ask your questions that you really, really want those answers to. End with the positive, and obviously always end with, love you. I'm so excited for you. You're the luckiest person on earth, and so proud of you. That's probably the best advice I can give you as a parent.
Wow, I love that. Thanks, Chad. That's very practical. And I especially appreciate your advice on helping students orient towards, okay, what's next? Because sometimes there's a curve that happens of homesickness and culture shock, and it's easy for students to get stuck in like, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if, I'm enjoying this. By you helping them break through that fog and figuring out, okay, what's the next thing that I can look forward to? You're going to help them continue on. 14 weeks passes by very quickly. Maybe not for parents. You might feel that it's 14 months, but I guarantee you students feel like it goes by in the flash of an eye, in the blink of an eye. And so you helping them stay with a sort of forward momentum is really helpful, because they trust your perspective and they value your insight. So on that note, of helping your student sort of work through challenges, advance in their sort of exploration of themselves and the world around them, the topic of transformation, one of our founding theories is self-authorship, and really putting the pen in students' hands for their own book of life, and them taking the reins and starting to make choices that will impact their future, and letting them guide sort of their own journey. This, of course, leads to transformation, and maybe even some unexpected ways, or ways that you hadn't anticipated as a parent, or your student hadn't anticipated when they joined Verto. So, Pamela, here's a picture of Jacqueline with a flamingo. I think this must be a Florida airport. I'm not sure.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
This is Phoebe the flamingo. She's our mascot at the Tampa airport. Everybody takes pictures with her. She literally is a giant flamingo. And so when she came back, I was the crazy mom with the welcome home sign and the flowers, and my husband and I couldn't wait to hug her. And all these people kept saying, "Oh, is she in the military? Is she coming home from the military?" And I'm like, "No, she's coming home from one semester of study abroad." But we were so excited to see her, of course. And so we put on the hoopla for her. And she does not like this picture because her eyes are partially closed, but I had to show it because we were, of course, so excited to see her. But I will say, as far as transformation goes, Jacqueline is an only child. She played sports competitively her whole life, always got good grades. I mean, she really was a very easy kid. I won't say she was perfect, because no child is, but didn't get in really any big trouble, like followed the rules. I wasn't expecting her to be a school skipper or to not do what she was supposed to be doing. One thing, though, that I was surprised to learn in her transformation is that she really started paying a lot of attention to finances, financial responsibility, and financial decision making. Like when it was time to go use funding for, should I go to the market and cook? Should I go out with my friends? I got invited to go here. Should I do this? And so we gave her some money to travel with. I wanted her to experience things, in other countries, because she was so close in proximity. And she did. She traveled abroad and had a great time with that on weekends and things as her schedule allowed. But for me, the transformation, of course, she was much more mature. I didn't worry about her dedication too much, but I was very excited to see the transformation about the financial decision making. And that has transferred over to, gosh, I could do these classes online through a community college to supplement, and then I could still do these, through the university. And already thinking and talking through some of those scenarios of her degree and currently now. So finances, believe it or not, were part of her transformation and how much things cost and the responsibility of that financial responsibility, having a budget and all of that really surprised us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Some of those life skills of how do
Mhm.
I make my money go further, for sure.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'll share this quickly. I mentioned a couple of the girls came back with her on spring break from Tennessee that are there with her now that were in her apartment at Verto. And I was asking them, I had very little time to see them. They were off at the beaches and doing some things and paddle boarding and, all the things kids do on spring break. But I asked them, what do you miss most about living in Italy? And hands down, every one of those girls said, I miss going to the market. I miss the fresh produce. I miss the small town feel. I miss shopping and cooking and doing those things because they're all in a dorm and they don't do that anymore. I never expected a group of 19-year-old girls to say they miss going to the market. I was shocked. I'm like, wow, you are also mature. Like, I was just shocked by that answer. But they did. They miss going to the market.
Yeah, the market in downtown Florence, that's hard to beat in terms of your grocery shopping. So I don't blame them.
Yeah, they miss it.
Well, Michael, I want to ask the same question to you because I think you have two experiences in this. You've seen two of your sons go through Verto. Before we do that, though, I want to take a step back just so that you can properly introduce yourself because we were having some audio issues. So I'll bring us back to your page if you could share a little bit about your sons and then how you saw them transform.
I love these photos. Okay, so you see where the boys were. We're a Boston or outside of Boston, Massachusetts family, and I'm glad you have the dates because I forgot when Noah had attended. But Noah had found Verto his sophomore year in high school and just determined that's what I want to do for my first year in college. He had such a great experience that Zachary, who's in the first picture on the right there, Noah's on the left. That's a oh, that I was with them there. Actually, that was outside of Sevilla. We did a day trip outside of Sevilla when Noah and I were visiting with Zachary. And then Zachary, yeah, heard from Noah about his experience and said, I want to do the same thing. Um, one of one of the things that is I'll say a remarkable side benefit of Verto is I like to call it two things. One thing is avoiding the kind of freshman year Lord of the Flies on U.S. college campuses because typically freshmen are all housed together. They don't have really good role models. There's a lot of kind of getting adjusted to being away from family, from home, without really a lot of, I won't even say adult supervision, but just adult eyes on them to, make sure that they're staying safe. And Verto had provided for both of them a really terrific balance of independence, shopping for themselves, cooking for themselves, going out and doing their own thing, but they're always adult eyes close by. So if there's somebody who needs something, if there's some kind of emergency, whether it's medical, health related, or some behavioral thing, they're staffed around. So it's really kind of a wonderful mix. The other thing that I still think fondly about Verto, both the boys were solid students in high school. They attended public school. They would not, I don't think either of them would have had a chance of getting into the universities that they transferred to. And it was kind of a short putt for Noah to get into NYU and Zachary Vanderbilt, where he is currently now. He's a sophomore there. They both love that experience. Um, the Noah was in a small group, a small cohort in London and Costa Rica. It was an honors program that Verto had at the time. And out of, I think it was 10 students, 9 or 10 students, only one of the students ended up doing what he planned to do before he entered Verto. And every other one of them decided on a different path which was largely, if not fully, informed by their Verto experience and their year away. Zachary also had different plans. He actually didn't know where he was going to go after Verto, and just decided to wing it while he was away. So that's kind of a long introduction, but I think I might have answered some of the question as well. I will echo the fiscal responsibility. Oh my God, I mean, remarkable for the both of them. Noah tends to be very, very responsible. Zachary kind of more of a spendthrift, and the both of them just kind of amped up their game for really kind of tracking their spend, being responsible for making good decisions or not making good decisions, and then living with that and making compromises. Hey, if I do this, then I can't do that. So planning ahead, living independently, just really remarkable growth. So I'm not sure if I really fully answered the question there, but maybe more of an intro.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that's such a testament to where Verto can take you and what it can do if your students are ready for those experiences and saying yes to the challenges and the successes that are presented to them. So thank you. I think that brings us nicely to our next question in this spirit of transformation. And now that your students are back on college campuses, what was the academic transition like for your son or daughter post Verto? Maybe we'll start with you, Chad.
Okay, so Alex is currently at the University of South Carolina living his absolute best life with my credit card. But I will say, academically, when we first heard about some of the policies with Verto, one of the ones that I actually was pleasantly surprised with is you got to go to class. You have to learn to get up, get dressed, and get to class. There's a commune in some of the schools, so it does take, some maturity to do that. And I think that's one of the things that he is putting to good use at South Carolina. He's not skipping class. It's like when you go down a road and you see some trash, it's easier to throw a piece of trash because there's already trash there. You skip that one class, it's easier to skip the second one and skip the third one. At Verto, you got to go. And he has taken that discipline over to South Carolina. And just like at Verto, he was able to pick his classes. So he's obviously more interested in the ones you're required to, going into high school. But absolutely living his best life, burning a hole in my credit card. But I'm so excited for him. Going up to Columbia this weekend to move him from a dorm. South Carolina put, I think, all of their Verto graduates in one dorm. And so they had a lot of support, because they came in mid year, so they had like an orientation for them and stuff like that. But I think to answer the question, I think it's just discipline to, get to class and know your responsibilities and do your job as a student. And I'm very, very happy and very thankful that Verto taught him that.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate that. We'll go to you, Pamela, next. Same question.
Okay, first of all, Chad, I love that South Carolina did that. I wish Tennessee would have done that because I think the distance was really challenging, especially through a very cold winter. My daughter is not used to winter. She lives in Florida, and so she was like, how do people live here? It's so cold. I'm like, you chose that school. But that being said, I really, from a feedback perspective, I think if your child's not going to stay all year, it is extreme with Verto. I think it's extremely important for them if they have that mid-year transition to a university. I would love to see more of that support because, like I said, it's a huge school. And so she's doing well academically. But one thing she did learn, she had 5 classes, got great grades. I did not see them because, we don't see grades anymore. But I'm pretty sure she said all A's and 1B at Verto, 5 classes. She went to Tennessee and started with 4 classes. And within like a week, she's like, I got to drop one of these. I just can't do it. And went down to 3 classes. And so that was a big learning curve for her. Now, she thought she wanted to do aerospace engineering. And so I think that was part of the curriculum was just so challenging. And she hadn't really had that experience in the past. Since then, she's decided to change majors back to her original major. But she's doing well and she's adjusted. But I do think that transformation was a little more challenging for her than I think we expected it to be, because in my mind, Verto does a great job with that little bit of support, there's not really hand holding. It's, hey, you're on a visa, you're a student, you got to get to class, you have to live up to your end of the bargain. You're 18, you can drink legally in these countries, but you're not there to party, you're there to go to school, right? Where at a big university, any university, they're like, yeah, we don't really care if you're here or not. I mean, that's kind of the mentality of a lot of our US universities. And so for me, I wish there would have been a little more transition from small, Verto cohort over to large school. But I think part of that was her just missing friends and trying to find her people, trying to find her career path, trying to decide if this is what she wanted to do academically, professionally, etc. But she's doing well and still getting good grades. Just it was a big transition from 5 classes down to like, this is harder than I thought it was going to be, once she got to Tennessee. So I'm not sure if that really answered your question, Mateo, but I think we all know our children. We know when we talk to them on the phone. Chad, we did the FaceTime and things when she was there. Now we do more text messages and phone calls. But we could sense something wasn't quite right with her midway through the semester. And then she was like, oh, can we meet halfway this weekend? Can I come home this weekend? I'm driving home this weekend. And we're like, you're getting in the car and driving 9 hours for a weekend? So we could sense that she wasn't quite where she, should have been. But it was more, I think, less homesick and more friend sick, because these girls were a 30-40 minute walk away down, across campus in cold weather. And so I think that was part of it too. But overall, she's doing well. The transition, I think, was just a little harder than we expected. But academically, she's doing well. I would say personally, she's doing well. And I also think the experience gave her the ability to say, if it's not for me, I want to make a change and not be stuck in something. And so that's what she's really done.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate your honest answer there. You both hit on a couple things that I'm glad that you hit on. One, our attendance policy. It is quite strict, and that's because we want students in class. There's also some visa implications, but the point is 20% of every class at least is experiential learning. If you're not there, you're not experiencing, and then you can't reflect on those experiences and have content to write your papers or complete your exams. So it's really important for us that students are attending class, and we have a pretty rigorous attendance policy. You also mentioned something else about access to grades. So that can come as a culture shock for parents of you being used to having access to your students' grades in high school. That drastically immediately changes once a student joins any college campus, let alone Verto. But because of FERPA laws, we don't provide you access to an academic portal that you can check your students' grades on. So something to be aware of. And in the spirit of getting prepared for the transition, maybe you talk with your student about, hey, when and how do you want to share your grades with me if you do? You also mentioned the on-site support, which I think is a unique benefit of starting your college experience abroad with Verto. So something interesting actually is Verto academic experiences are broken up into 4 parts of term, and every part can only equal up to 25% of a student's grade. So unlike a typical college campus, I went to UC Berkeley, I had courses where the final exam was 70% of the grade. You don't get those surprises at Verto. Our on-site team also gets reports about students' grades every term. So we're keeping track of your students' grades just as we hope that your student is. And if we're seeing things that aren't in alignment with what their channel school requirements are, we flag those and we require a one-to-one meeting with your students. So know that there's lots of support, which, as you said, Pamela, it can be a culture shock. Those type of supports don't exist on college campuses. You don't have anyone checking in on your midterm grades and saying, hey, do you need any help? Do you know how to get to tutoring? So that, of course, is the last point that is important, I think, that you mentioned, is to normalize these challenges too. Just as we normalize these challenges with students, this experience won't be 100% easy 100% of the time. There will be challenges, and that's how you grow. That's actually, you have to go through the stretch zone to get into the learning zone, to get into the discovery zone. You don't get to the discovery zone without a little bit of stress and struggle. So normalizing those challenges is really helpful. And this starts in pre-departure. When your student opens up their checklist items and it feels, oh, I feel overwhelmed, I don't know where to start. You helping prepare them for facing those challenges head on and accessing resources is just going to set them up for more success when they get on site. Okay, I have a couple more questions. Michael, I want to turn this one to you. A piece of advice as a parent who's been there, done that, for this group of incoming Verto parents, what's some advice that you have for
Hmm. Helping prepare for their experience. I would maybe give the same advice that I gave to my boys, which is to really lean into the pre-departure mandatory as well as optional experiences. Some of them, I think, particularly for our kids, seem kind of hokey, or it's yeah, whether it's an icebreaker but it's really the pre-departure stuff is good to first understand more about what's going to be going on at Verto, and secondly, it's a great way to start networking with the people who are going to be, part of your cohort and you're going to see every day.
Yeah, cringe is the word that students use. Things can be cringe, but that's a part of being a member of our communities. Lean into the cringe. And I'll demo in just a moment some of the features that we have in Verto Connect for students to find students that are going to their same location, even their same channel school. We have lots of ways for students to connect one-on-one. Same question. Let's go with you, Chad. A piece of advice you have for parents.
Well, the FaceTime was probably the best one I have, but I think one of the other ones I would say is, you know, collectively we're not here to raise kids. We're here to raise young adults. And that means that they're going to have to stumble every once in a while, and you're going to have to let that happen. And it's not comfortable. It's easier for us being on this side of the experience to tell you guys that are going into it, but they're going to have some challenges, and let them have challenges. One of the silly things that happened, they had an excursion to Edinburgh, and for whatever reason, Alex missed the bus. And my initial gut reaction when he was texting me was just to say, call an Uber and meet him there. Now, that's an 11-hour drive from London to Edinburgh. And I was willing to pay that. But I stopped right before I cost myself a lot of money. And I took a step back and I went, what's the right thing I should say? And I actually texted back, figure it out. And then I sat by my phone waiting for those three dots to come up. And I'm 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Finally, I get the three dots, and now I'm starting to breathe heavy. And then I found a bus company. I booked a ticket. It was like 40 pounds or something to get to Edinburgh. I'm talking to my buddies. I'm going to meet them there. And they did, and they had a wonderful experience. And it taught him just one more step of resiliency. So you can't fix all their problems, because one day you're not going to be able to be there anyway. And it's tough. It's not easy, but that's probably the best thing, is just let them figure some things out on their own.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you, Chad. All right, Pamela, same question for you.
I would ditto both of what Michael and Chad said. Those are great pieces of advice. I would also add, for any parents out there that, your child is about to embark on this journey, guide them as they need to be guided, not as you need to be guided. And what I mean by that is, there'll be times when you want to get the Uber or you want to tell them what to do. It's a learning experience. They will figure it out. They will figure out who their people are. They will figure out how to get to class. They will figure out their grades. They will figure out all the things. And so I agree. We're here to raise adults. We raise children to leave us. And I know that sounds terrible, but it's true, right? We raise them to fly the nest someday. And so for me, I would say I had to sometimes step back and not give her advice. I had to really just say, what do you think you should do? Or what do you think the best solution is, right? I was more coaching her like I would one of my employees, versus telling her what the answer would be. Because again, it's my answer. She needs to come up with her own answer. So I would say, for me, really stopping at this point in their young adult lives to say, what do they need and how can I best support my child without giving them that answer? Because you're right, Chad, you could have spent a whole lot of money, but he figured it out and he did it on a reasonable amount of money, right? And he still got where he needed to be. Somehow these kids magically figure out life. And they're probably way smarter than we are anyway, when it comes right down to the technology and all the things that they know better than we do. So that would be my advice, give them what they need, support them, love them, guide them. But don't tell them what to do, because they're not going to listen to us half the time anyway. And we want them to arrive at their own conclusions.
And
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
to have one alibi on that, and if you really need them to have some adult supervision, tell them to
Sure.
go to the Verto staff.
Yeah.
Alex got sick. A lot of these kids are going to get the sniffles or whatever, and it was, go find them. They're there. They live there. They know. And so the Verto staff helped him go find a local doctor. I think it ended up being like 70 pounds or something for the visit. But if you really you really think they need an adult, tell them to go talk to the Verto people. They're there. They'll live them right there.
Yeah, that's our job. So directing them to their on-site staff is the best next step after you share your set of questions. I like what you said, Pamela. It's almost like instead of a series of answers, now you're transitioning to a series of questions that you ask and helping them come to the answer that feels the best for them. So thank you. All right, I'm looking at the clock. We have 10 minutes left. I would like people, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat for our panelists. I'm not sure we're going to get to all of them, but before we sort of move into last steps here, I want to do a quick roundup of hopefully helpful information for parents on the call who are supporting their students getting ready for the upcoming fall semester. So first, just a recap of where we're at in the pre-departure timeline. May is when things really start to happen. So this is when your student can already start booking flights and submitting that flight itinerary into Verto Connect. This is when they should already have completed their placement tests so that they can participate in course selection. This is when they're going to give us preferences for the courses they want to take in fall 26. This is also when they should start applying for academic accommodations. If they had an IEP or accommodations in high school, this process through New Haven takes several weeks. So you're going to want to help your student make sure that they're staying on top of that. They don't want to arrive on site without having their academic accommodations approved. This, of course, is after our April date, which if you've joined our community in April, welcome, you're still perfectly on time. Although know that we're ramping up with several processes, including gathering, how would you call that? Materials for visa applications. If your student is going to Florence, Seville, or Prague, they're going to need a student visa. We offer visa webinars weekly. So make sure you're reading the parent weekly checklist email that goes out on Wednesdays. Typically, it went out today. That's going to give you the URL to sign up for those weekly touch points. And you can ask any questions you have to our visa team. This also is important for your student by this point to have submitted their unofficial transcript in Verto Connect to make them eligible for course selection. Of course, they need a passport. So if that's a concern, please have your student reach out to their student onboarding advisor immediately, because we're reaching some critical deadlines there. Yeah, all of this information is also on Verto Connect. Parents don't have access to Verto Connect, but I welcome you to log in alongside your student to see what their outstanding checklist items are so that they can be making good progress on their checklist items. We have lots of information as well on this public enrolled participant page, so I'll drop this in the chat. But if you have questions about what is due, when, and what resources are available for you, check out the enrolled participants page. So it's broken up by category, and you'll see some deadlines here. Also relevant to folks at this point is this information about booking a flight. This document here has arrival windows. So as your student is looking for their flight, they're going to want to make sure they arrive to the correct airport and within the correct arrival time for us to arrange for airport pickup if they're arriving on arrival day. Another resource I wanted to share with enrolled participants is if you go to location resources, this is going to give you a lot of information about your student's on-site experience by location. So if you have questions about what should my student pack for Seville, that's answered there. How will my student get a SIM card abroad? That's there. What is the study center like in my location, my student's location? What's the housing like? All this information is available for you. So I recommend checking this out with your student, and before they reach out to their student onboarding advisor, that they've checked here. And of course, if they don't see the answer here, they're welcome to reach out to their SOA, their student onboarding advisor. But let's get in the practice of empowering them by using the tools that we give them. And then I mentioned this a little bit, but just to share it once more, course selection has already kicked off. It's going to close mid-June. This is when students start preferencing their courses for their upcoming semester. It's not a first come, first serve, so your student has time to make their preferences. And in Verto Connect, we also give them course registration guides that are by channel school. So each channel school looks at the courses that we offer and translates how they're going to matriculate, or how do they say that? Someone help me with English. I have Spanish on my brain. How they're going to articulate. That's right. Thanks, Shanine. How they're going to articulate to your students' channel school. So there's resources there. If your student has questions, also recommend that they drop in our office hours for course selection that happens every 2 weeks. We had one today. We'll have another one 2 weeks from now on Wednesday, just so that they can select their courses and feel excited about those. I also want to say, and I would love for parents, our panelists, to share, if you did go to Parent Day, what was that like? Did you not go to Parent Day? Why did you not go to Parent Day? I think parents always ask at this point, should I go or shouldn't I go? And the last parent panel we had one family who did not go and they were glad they didn't go, and one parent that did go and they were glad. But let me share that in-person Parent Day happens on August 25th and August 26th and 27th. So that's the day after students arrive. Spots are limited. We have some locations like London. I think we have about 30 tickets left of the 100 that we have available. So if you're excited about this experience, I'll drop the link to purchase those tickets. But I would love to know from panelists, did you go to the Parent Day? We only offered it in Florence. No, we did offer it in all locations last year. So maybe Chad or Pamela, did you go to Family Day? I feel like, Michael, we didn't have Family Day in your era.
Yeah, I'll keep the answer short. Yes, I went. Yes, you should go. They walk you around the campus and around the area to show you that it's safe, and the restaurants are going to have access to it and everything else. I actually made a friend there, and then we went out and had a good time in London the next day doing all the tourist stuff when the students were out doing their meet and greets.
Yep, we did
Awesome.
the
How about
exact.
you, Pamela?
I went to Parents' Day. We were in Florence the day before. I stayed for 2 more days, met another mom, and we hit it off and went around the city and did the fun stuff while the kids were in class. Had dinner with my daughter the night before and then flew home when I knew she was in good hands and I felt really good about leaving her. I would say though, I'm glad I went to Parent Day. I needed to see that. I needed to make sure she was, for my own peace of mind and my own well-being, I think, to be able to leave her. But Jacqueline did have roommates who their parents came in the middle of the semester, at the end of the semester. And I think you'll get a different experience if you do that because your child can show you the city they've been living in. And so I've heard a lot of positive things about that too. So I think it just depends, where you're at and what you're most comfortable with. If you can't go or don't want to go until later, I will say she would have been just fine without me dropping her off. It was me that needed Parents' Day, not her, right? So, but yeah, I did go and I'm very glad I went.
Yeah, thank you. And as you mentioned, you get a free tour guide if you visit at the end as opposed to the beginning. So that could be helpful. I also want to say that we launched a social media contest called Verto Bound. If your student checks out our Instagram page at Verto Education, it's open until June, and it's basically an opportunity for them to share their story about Verto, why they're excited about joining our community. We're going to choose one of the submissions for reimbursement for a round trip flight. So a great contest and an opportunity for your students to start telling their story, have them log into Instagram, check out our page for them to participate. Let me see what my next slide is. Oh yeah, I mentioned this at the beginning. We have, in addition to Verto Connect being the place where all of the checklist items live, we also have something called the Community tab. This is where it's a private network of only Verto enrolled students where they're in 2 groups. They're in a location group by their fall location, and they're also in a channel group. So all students that are going to the same channel school are already in a private network where they could post on the feed, introduce themselves. There's one-to-one messaging for them to reach out to each other, exchange contact information. It's also where we have all of our events. We offer events once a week for students to get to know each other in casual virtual spaces. So I think, Michael, as you mentioned, have your student beat the feeling of cringe and show up to one of these events. They're actually really fun. We get great feedback from students that attend these. And yeah, encourage your student. Maybe ask them, hey, have you met anyone in the Verto community yet? And if they haven't, encourage them to log into the community tab and start making friends. A lot of students at this point are also looking for roommates. So the roommate preference form is open until June 25th. If your student meets someone in an event or in the community tab and they mutually request each other to be roommates, we have a high probability of making that happen. So of course, if your student doesn't find someone, a roommate, and doesn't make a request, we have a housing preference form where they could give us some insight as to their living habits, and we'll try to do our best to match night owls with night owls and so forth. But just an added way for your student to feel more confident in their experience if they meet someone in pre-departure and already feel like, wow, I'm making friends and the semester hasn't even started. That would be our best dream if students are going on site with already a group of students that they feel confident with. Okay, I think I'll just to briefly summarize this, where your student should be at. Make sure that they've attended their group welcome call with their student onboarding advisor. Of course, this is your student's mentor for the next couple of months as they're getting ready to be on site. So some of these names might be familiar. Every student has one student onboarding advisor that specializes in that location. So please make sure your student has connected with their SOA, that they know how to reach them if they have questions. And have your students CC you on emails if you'd like to accompany them and so to see what questions they're asking or add some extra support. Also at this point, please make sure your student has updated their passport information, added it to Verto Connect, given us their unofficial transcript, all that good stuff so that we can get them rolling for pre-departure checklist items. All right, I think we answered all of the questions in our Q&A. So thanks everyone. And I want to give a special shout out to all of our families, our parents that joined our panel tonight. So Chad, Pamela, Michael, Shawneen, Kat, thank you so much for sharing your perspective, for answering questions, for your honesty and authenticity and sharing your students' experiences. And we're so excited to follow your students' journeys as they continue on. Michael, I know that Noah already graduated NYU, so we're already seeing alumni out there in the world. And for you, Chad and Pamela, we're rooting your students on, and Kat and Shawneen as well, as they continue their journeys. So thanks so much for sharing your perspective with these families here tonight.
Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, go Vols. So as I mentioned at the beginning, in just a moment, I'm going to open up breakout rooms. This is an opportunity for you to network with families whose student is going to the same location as you. So if you'd like to join, you're welcome to join those. There is no time limit, and there's no agenda. So we won't have Verto staff members there moderating. Rather, if someone could start the conversation and maybe exchange contact information or ask questions to one another. Families that have joined tend to find that to be a productive space for you to also, in your parent journey, feel more confident. So I'll go ahead and open up those rooms in just a moment. Before we do though, Kat, Shawneen, or Steph, anything that you wanted to share with this group of family members to reiterate before we transition to breakout rooms and we let our panelists go?
I would just like to say, as both a Verto employee, but first and foremost also a Verto parent, this is absolutely the best thing that my son could have done to start college. It's an experience like nothing else that he's had, and it has launched him into some really great considerations for later in his college time. He's headed to India in just a few weeks to spend 2 weeks there with a nutritionist. And I just think that because of his confidence and his independence that he gained during Verto, he feels like he can go have these kind of experiences and be successful at them. And that's invaluable. So go for it. Take that leap. Cry your tears if you must. We all do, but it's absolutely worth it.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. One great thing that my son ended up experiencing is that he changed his major because he had such a great experience with a Verto professor that he decided he wanted to go into business. Had he gone straight into the college, maybe that would have not happened. So just the exposure and what they get to, I guess, experience on a day-to-day basis is life-changing for the students. And I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Shawneen. I'll also say if one of you could drop your Calendly link in case there are any admitted parents that want to talk to you specifically as students are gearing up for May 1st, National College Decision Day, you're welcome to connect with Shawneen or Kat to answer any questions your student still has about Verto. All right, so with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and open up our breakout rooms once more. Thank you so much to our panelists who joined us tonight. Thank you to all of our family members who joined to hear their perspective. We're so excited that you're part of our community, and we look forward to the next couple of months getting ready for this transformative experience. And maybe some of you will be our panelists a year, 2 years from now, sharing your experience about how your student did abroad. So thanks everyone so much. I'll go ahead and open up our breakout rooms now.
Thank you.
All right, so I opened up our breakout rooms. In your Zoom toolbar, you might need to click breakout rooms, or in my Zoom, because my screen is smaller, it says more with 3 dots. Click that, and then you're gonna get the option to join a breakout room. You're welcome to stay on as long as you'd like. There's family members in all of our breakout rooms, so joining a breakout room, you're guaranteed to meet someone new.
And is it okay that even if we're with Verto, but we had our student go, could I go into the Spain room?
Sure, yeah. Although if you start getting a lot of questions, Shawneen, no worries. You can back out and just be a fly on the wall.
Okay. All right.
Mateo, did you want us to join those channel rooms, or would you like them to have
No,
their?
I think you're good for the evening. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You guys are the best. Have a great one.
You too.
Thank
Take care.
you. All right. Good luck to everybody. Thank you. Bye.
If you're not seeing the breakout rooms, it might be because you're joining from the web version, which doesn't allow for breakout rooms. Or it also might mean that you're joining from a Zoom that doesn't have the most updated